Hi, I'm Stephanie Burt. Just like some who've come before me, I eat, I travel, I write, and I talk. Boy, do I talk. But I also listen too. And these are some of the stories I hear and experience around the Southern table. They are rooted in personal and cultural history, resonance with seasonality and the living environment, and a passion for high-level craft that in its pursuit offers the possibility of sustenance from one hand to another. Let's dig in. I like your beer.
I love to hear that.
Yes. That's the voice of Palmer Quimby, the founder and one of the owners of Munkle Brewing Co. in Charleston, South Carolina. The other brewery partners include Henry Ng, Amit Agrawal, Vishal Agrawal, and Joe Bowden. Munkle focuses on making old world-style traditional beers while using local seasonal ingredients when possible. Since they began in 2017, they've been a brewery with a very specific point of view, from their approach to style and taproom hospitality to the fact that the name is an homage to Palmer's uncle, who was a monk for 6.5 years in Three Rivers, Michigan. This brewery is so different in that you make Belgian.
It's one of our focuses. It's where we started.
Right.
But as in anything, we have evolved. The idea of starting this brewery, behind the name, behind the identity of it, it started in Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
But where we really started to spread our wings is when we started making German lagers. As you alluded to, you enjoy the Monk Pilsner, which has quickly become one of the top-selling beers in Charleston, South Carolina. It's been fun to watch. We've recently introduced some English-style beers and some American beers. And so that has been really fun for us to kind of evolve and change, because the beer market itself is evolving and changing.
Right.
And if we want to continue to be around, we're going to have to evolve with it. That doesn't mean that we are going to start doing everything that everyone else does. We've always kind of marched to our own beat and done the things that we like to do and share them with the world and hope that people enjoy them. So we will continue to do that. But if you've thought that Munkle would never do an IPA, guess what? We make them now. So they're here and they're delicious.
That's great.
Yeah.
That brings me to this main first question, which is, I love the brewery world and I've written about it through the years, but it's hard sometimes for breweries and brewers to actually put fences on the creativity. So how do you know when something fits in the next step creatively that you want to take? Because some people, for good or bad, are all over the place. And how do you know this needs to be the next thing?
Great question. I believe working with my head brewer, Joe Bowden, he's been with me since day one. He's also now a partner in the business. And him and I work really well together to find and execute beers that we want to make. There's a couple things to me that are styles that I just don't really enjoy, styles that I've never really gotten behind. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just not what I like. It's not what I want to do. So I think the basis of most of our stuff is very traditional, and that's where we like to kind of hang out and play. That's like our side of the swimming pool, if you may. And, when making new beers, we love to work with farmers here in Charleston. I love and get a lot of fruit from Lindsay over at Lowcountry Street Grocery. So we love
Lindsay pretty well.
finding and using things in traditional ways that make us stand out from what everyone else is doing.
Now, did you think that an episode with me wouldn't come around to eating local, even if it's beer? The plethora of Lowcountry produce provides the Munkle staff plenty of inspiration throughout the seasons. Will you give me an example of something that's used a local fruit or vegetable that you made into beer?
Yeah, I'll give you a great example. And if you follow us seasonally, everyone's favorite time here at Munkle is the next few months because we get all these beautiful fruits. I was just over at Lowcountry Street Grocery not too long ago, and they had a surplus of blackberries in the freezer that were left over from last season, the summertime, and they needed to move them. And I said, I'll take those off your hands. And we made 2 delicious beers with them. So helping him out, helping us out, and then people get to enjoy delicious blackberry beer. Strawberry beer comes up next.
What is the blackberry beer specifically?
I don't like to use extracts. I don't like to use purees. If I'm going to use fruit in a beer, I'm going to use real fruit. I'm going to use local fruit. A lot of cases, we cold condition. So we take raw fruit, we usually freeze it, which helps break down the product, and then we actually cold infuse it into the beer. And that usually takes 7 days. The last 2 beers we did, there was 1 keg of each. So there was a keg of blackberry wit and a keg of blackberry brune. The wit is our Belgian wheat ale, and the brune is our Belgian brown ale that we've been making since day one.
And man, so nice to have blackberry beer in the winter.
In the wintertime, yeah.
Right.
It was a bonus. I was very excited when they said they had the extra blackberries.
I would have taken some of those, Lindsay.
Yeah.
I would have had some of those for sure. I didn't know you had frozen blackberries available. So working in collaborative fashion with the brewer, with your team, you're also working in collaboration with yeast.
Absolutely.
All kinds of ingredients.
Yep.
And something like blackberries are going to have natural yeast on the outside of them just from growing in the world.
It's a great point, and that's why we only cold condition and we only make small batches. Because you are taking a big risk with introducing something like that to something that already has yeast, has residual sugars inside of it. You're inviting some trouble there. That's why we don't distribute those kind of things. We make those for in-house. They're meant to be consumed immediately. We control the environment they're in. So every time it goes in your glass, you're getting this delicious beer without any of the extra stuff. But absolutely, with the additional yeast on there, if you were to put that into a keg, and it were to go sit outside for 12 hours, or just room temperature, you would get a secondary fermentation and you could be inviting a lot of trouble into that beer.
And some maybe explosions as well.
Possibly, absolutely, especially inside the keg. And so we're very cautious of that. And between the brew team, they've almost 35 years of experience between all the guys in the back. And so we've got a phenomenal team. We're cognitive of all those things when we're doing these things. So is it something that we should release and only have in the tap room? Is it something that we can bottle and share with the world? Is it something that we can package on a larger scale and move out into distribution? And tends to be with the fresh fruit beers, they stay in-house. People always complain like, oh, why don't you package this? And I was like, well, it wouldn't be as good.
Right.
What makes it special is that it's a small batch thing that is done to be consumed on property.
Munkle has 8 flagship beers and 8 seasonals in their core products. But a creative and nimble team like they have means that they can play with one-offs like the aforementioned and serve it to their loyal regulars. Oh, and if you've never been to Munkle, it's a fun location right by the train tracks on Meeting Street Road with a covered patio, an inside tap room, and a convenient sliding walk-up window between the two. We are fed the line that beer needs to be fresh. Do you agree with that?
I think there are certain beers that need to be fresh, but I will say there are a lot of beers out there that benefit from time and age. One of my favorite beers is a beer that we made the first year that we opened up in 2017 called Beer to Guard. It's called Five Branches Beer to Guard. It's named in honor of my grandfather. And we won a gold medal our first year open out of the Great American Beer Festival with that beer. But that beer literally translates to beer to shield or beer to protect. And traditionally, they would make saisons in the springtime in the region of France and Belgium. And then right after that, because you had to brew to the seasons, you would make a beer to guard. And you would take that beer to guard, you'd store it in the cellar or the caves, you'd drink saison all spring and summer. And then when you got to the end of it, you started drinking beer to guard. So we started making that beer, and we actually hold it for 2 to 3 months before we release it. So there are certain types of beers that actually benefit from a little bit of aging in time. It allows all the flavors to come together and meld together, and it's kind of quite magical. So
now, I know that there are definitely some home brewers that listen to the show.
Yeah.
And as home brewers, of course, you're going to dream, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to start a brewery. I know that you were brewing before you started this.
Absolutely.
So now that it's 8.5 years in, how does it feel as it has come to life and evolved? What is something that you wish you could tell somebody who would be you 8 years ago? Like a piece of advice or something you had no idea that you would care about so much?
It's a great question, and there are so many answers to it. I would start by saying homebrewing is done through passion and love of fermenting and making a product and something that's been going on for 1,000 years. So you almost feel like you're a part of something when you're doing something like that. But to take it to the next step is very much a leap. And I've been asked this question many a times. It would be really hard for me to start all over again today and do what I did when I started this 10 years ago. I would recommend to people that the passion has to be there. The most important thing to me in this place, and I cannot stress this enough, is as much as we do beer and much as we are a brewing place and we provide beer for people in Charleston, South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama now, we're in the hospitality business. And that's one of the things that I stress to the back of the house, the front of the house. At the end of the day, we're beer makers. We're in the hospitality business.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're here to give people a little bit of relief from their lives, to take away, to make them feel at home, almost like a second home. One of the things that I love about brewing and the brewing industry is the camaraderie between people, finding your people, finding your tribe, whatever it is. And so building an environment and building relationships in and around the community and the people that you have in hospitality is one of the most important parts. You could have one of the best beers in the world, but if no one cares, you know what I mean? If no one is interested in coming and hanging out at your place, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
So much I see people are like, oh, I make this great beer and I've got this cool design idea. And that's a big part of it for sure. But there's so much more that goes into it. And so stepping back and taking a look at the bigger picture and seeing all the things that go into it is definitely very, very important. I was fortunate. I came 25 years in the food and beverage industry. And so that certainly helped me. At the end of the day, if you are interested in starting a brewery and it's truly what you want to do, I highly recommend you get up every day and you work towards that. And as soon as you get enough money that you think you're ready to do it, go get some more money because it's going to cost more.
Which brings us to your partners. Obviously, it takes a lot of money. This is a nice building. Ingredients are expensive. Cans.
Everything.
I mean, everything is so expensive. A few years ago, I was really trying to write about the cans and the shortage, and it was too inside baseball for me. I mean, I could do it, but my editors were like, that's not what we hire. So I know how much all of that stuff costs and how it is, but it feels very team-oriented here, like you're all going in the same direction. You might not be doing the same thing, but you're facing the same direction.
Sure.
And lots of times when you take on partners as a creative, you actually are in silent opposition. You are trying to let Big Boss let you do what you want to do.
Sure.
In food and beverage, you learned how to navigate as a team. How is it navigating with such a diverse team that you've built? You have one of the most diverse breweries management in the state of South Carolina.
Absolutely. It has been a pleasure to work with who I work with, to be where I'm at. The whole thing happened very organically, to be completely honest with you. I used to run a bar downtown Charleston called Chai's Lounge. Some people remember that place.
Chai's Sliders. Your happy hour was epic.
The Little Rock Shrimps. So I actually took over Chai's Lounge and I ran it for 7 years. You might not have recognized me, but I had a long ponytail and a more three-piece suits. I took over for Chai, who the namesake of the place, which is Henry's brother. Chai went up to Charlotte to start opening up Basil restaurants up in Charlotte, and I came in as the fill-in, and I came in from High Cotton. I worked 6.5 years under Dick Elliott and the Maverick Southern Kitchens, which was a great learning experience for me and helped me get to where I'm at for sure, working under people like Jill Maynard and David Marconi. When I got to that point, Henry and I became close over the years, and there were two other gentlemen by the name of Vishal and Ahmed Agrawal, who are dear friends of mine that were in med school at the time, and they used to come into Chai's, and that's where I met these guys, and that's where these relationships were forged a long, long time ago. And so as things continued to change up on King Street and we decided we'd had enough of doing that, we kind of all went our own separate ways for a while, but the conversation continued, the relationships continued. And fast forward several years from there, we all kind of sat down together one afternoon and we're talking about doing a project. I had been homebrewing for a good while at that point, and I was also doing, even at Chai's, I was doing a lot of beer dinners. And
I remember those.
Yeah. So,
yes.
what's funny is all the people that are in the beer industry now, from the Westbrooks to the Scott Shores at Edmonds Oast, they were all coming to those beer dinners.
Mm-hmm.
I would only do a beer dinner if the owner or the brewer came. I didn't do beer dinners with representatives, and it made it more special. And we had a lot of great times, and I have very fond memories of working with the chefs and creating these wonderful meals. And one of the reasons we focus on Belgian beers to start out with is because they complement food so well, and I wanted to do something that complemented the food scene here in Charleston.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we started in that direction.
And I've always mentioned this is the beer, the styles of beer that Charlestonians really want, because it's hot.
Yeah.
And you also want delicate beers.
Yeah.
You want beers
subtle and balanced. Nuance.
Yes. Nuance.
Yeah.
Yes. Which
That's
is better
our approach.
than delicate.
That is our approach to everything, because I would say in the last, 10 to 15 years, with a lot of American, not everybody, but a lot of American craft breweries is more hit you over the head with as much flavor as we can.
And high ABV.
Yes, which that's the other thing. They're hitting you over the head with the alcohol. Usually with more alcohol, you're going to get more body, more flavor.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are fine and great. And I do love those styles of beer, and we do make those. But it's also finding that there's a little sweet spot in a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can find that, it's like finding that little pocket in a wave. And if you can find that sweet spot, it is so rewarding. And we truly found that in our Pilsner. And that has been essentially the catalyst for a lot of our growth over the last couple of years. If you take a look out into the brew house, you'll see Pilsner cans stacked to the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason for that. And so it's been fun to watch. I came up in a time of Palmetto and Coast. People like Dave and Jamie over at Coast were definitely a big influence on me, watching the growth of Kolsch. And at one point, even at Chai's, I was on a wait list to get their beers.
Right.
Because they couldn't make enough.
Right.
And I loved that. And so
such a good beer.
Such a good beer. And it's still to this day, someone asked me, where do you go? And I'm just like, go to Coast.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of great breweries here. We're very fortunate. Edmonds Oast and Revelry. And though we've lost some over the last couple years, and I don't think that's over yet, I do think that it's kind of making room for some of these other breweries that are not necessarily doing it better or right, but just making room for them to be able to grow more adequately.
So, I'm popping in here to do what we call in the business a host read ad. But this promo is for something very special to me, my new book. South Carolina Cocktails, an elegant collection of over 100 recipes inspired by the Palmetto State, is now available for sale wherever you buy books. And it includes cocktails from 100 different bars and restaurants in South Carolina, full-color photos, bartender profiles, bar features, and local producers. If you want a personalized and signed copy, though, all you have to do is go to my Instagram profile and look for the book, articles, and podcast episodes link. There, you'll be able to order directly from me. I'd love to sign a book for you. Okay, now back to the show. You had some success. Everything seems calm here from the outside, and I'm not going to dig too deep about that. What is making you hungry? What is next here for you? Something creatively percolating back there?
Yeah, we're actually having a lot of fun creating some styles that we haven't done before. We have almost a master list of stuff that we would like to get to. I get asked all the time, are you ever going to do this style? Are you going to do this style? And I'm like, you'll have to wait and see. We just recently brewed our first Doppelbock, which we had a lot of success with. We're getting ready to brew our first Marsbach. We just brewed our signature pale ale that we've been working on for a year. So there are a lot of things that I'm excited about. But honestly, I to what I'm really excited about is We are continuing to grow. We're looking to add some other states, but I'm most excited about the growth in Charleston. While as a homeowner and someone that lives here, it scares me a little bit because the infrastructure there, Charleston's always like, oh, we'll deal with it later. We'll just keep building. But there's so much cool stuff coming to Charleston right now, and it's all around us. And we're up in a part of town where the growth and development is heading this way. And so I'm very excited about a lot of that growth and development for this business. I think that sets us up and gives us a lot of opportunity to get in front of a lot of new people. There's a lot of new restaurants coming. And every time I see one of those places up, I'm like, man, my beer would be really good at that place. And so that's what really excites me and gets me up and gets me going.
Love it. What is one aspect of this job that meshes like a puzzle piece with an aspect of your personality?
That's a long answer, but I'll try to give it in the shortest way. When I first moved back to Charleston, I went to Johnson and Wales. I had been cooking since I was about 12 years old. My father taught me how to cook at a very young age, and it's something that I really, really enjoyed because I like doing cooking for people. It was something I got to make something and do something and watch people enjoy it. Quickly realized as I wrapped up Johnson and Wales, I didn't want to be in the back of the house. That was not for me. I started working in the front of the house, and I never looked back. Though I went for culinary arts, I probably should have gone into restaurant management, but everything happens for a reason. And I was just so enamored with making connections with customers, the stories in and around the food and beverage industry. I have a very fond memory of Jamie Whetstone, who is a winemaker who's from here, who made this wonderful Pinot called John Boat. I could sell that to anybody. And I just loved making that connection. I love people that were coming here looking for that hospitality, looking for a little bit of that culture and those stories. And I loved being able to provide that for them. And so that's, to me, is one of the things and the aspects of what I do that I really enjoy, that also, as you know, as we are beer makers, we're also storytellers. Every beer has a story. All these beers on here, there's something behind them, and there's a story that I can tell you. And so I think that's how I would kind of sum that up.
So you make things that illustrate a story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's what all the best food people do.
Yeah.
Right?
Agreed.
So
Absolutely.
So culinary arts did work out for you.
It did. Absolutely. Absolutely.
What is something keeping you up at night?
Another great question. I had the very fortunate opportunity to go to a high school in Pensacola. After getting into some trouble in young age, I ended up at a high school that I might not have gone to otherwise, and was introduced to a gentleman by the name of Mr. Holston, who's one of the best people I've ever met in my life, besides some of my father and my grandfather, that were just very inspiring people. He taught me at a very young age, and it took a long time. He actually taught me a lot of lessons, and some I took immediately, and some took years for me to get the grasp of. He was really good, and you have to imagine trying to teach a 16 or 17-year-old to live in the moment. It's not an easy thing to do. And I will say, all through my 30s were very, very stressful, and that includes starting this business, which was definitely a process. But living in the moment, not dwelling on the past, not looking to the future, but being right now, being centered, and being mindful of my presence, my breath. And so I leave it. So when I'm here, that's when I deal with everything. I get up every day. Once I hit this door, it's all about this place. When I leave here, I turn it off, and I'm able to focus on my home, my wife, my dog, my family, whatever it is. It's a struggle. Doesn't always work out that way, but that's the way I try to live.
It's a practice.
It is a practice. And you have to be mindful of it, and you have to have this thought of, I'm not going to worry about this because I can't do anything now, and I'm not going to dwell on it serves no purpose. All it does is take away from the moment that you're in.
Right.
And so I've gotten really good at it, especially, at 40, almost 47 years old. I've gotten, in the last couple years, I've gotten really good at it. And I want to continue to be good at that because I sleep better, and I feel healthier, and I feel better. And I feel like the people around me also benefit from that.
Yeah. That is my struggle. I think that's so many people's struggle, but it's definitely my struggle because I work on deadline.
Sure.
And I have to generate ideas. And so, I've got to kind of future think about the past in the present, because that's what I do. But I can still do a better job of being in the moment when I am. And in the moment here, we have come to the final question. I am going to talk to you about the magic picnic basket question. Now, I know you're familiar with this because you're a listener, but I have a magic picnic basket that I can use to time travel. I can use to source for you. I can cook a little bit. And I really want to put some things in that basket that bring you life. I used to ask about the death row meal. I do not believe in the death penalty. So this is a basket to bring you life. We're food people. There's something that's going to change. If I had my druthers, I would want to put some chai sliders in here.
Yeah.
But it is not
bread.
about me. It's about you.
Yes.
So what are some things that I can put in that basket?
Oh, I thought about this a lot over the last week or so. And, the death row question is one thing, but there's also that question of like, if you could have dinner with anybody, who would it be?
Right.
And so for me, one of the things that we grew up, a very fortunate, a very large family here in Charleston and around Charleston, and we grew up with our family making sure that we knew and understood how important it was for all of us to be a part of each other's lives. And so one of the things that I think, and this kind of goes with the picnic basket, as we've all gotten older, people start having kids, we're on the next generation, things are changing, the world is getting more challenging, there's more technology, but I would really love to we've got some family property up in the upstate of South Carolina that my family's been on for generations and generations. And we used to have these big get-togethers on the pond, as we called it. And we don't do them as much anymore. And I'd really like to bring everyone and anyone that is a part of the family, again, we're all busy. We all got our own lives, but everyone to slow down for a moment and go back to the pond. And we love to do oyster roast. We go to Crosby's, we get a couple bushels of oysters. There's usually some barbecue, some fried chicken. I like those simple things. I like being outside. The dogs and kids are running around. Kids are swimming. Adults are walking around the property. Everyone's having a good time. They're usually drinking some Munkle beer. But I'd like to do more of that. To me, that is one of the things that is very special to me, and it means a lot to me, and we just don't do it enough anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could put all the family and all the delicious food in a picnic basket.
I need a couple more specifics, though. So what kind of barbecue am I getting?
Again, I like to cook. So I love pork. I'm a big pork person. I could say we have so many great barbecue restaurants right down the road, from Scott's and Lewis and Home Team and Palmera, but I like to make my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always made, my wife, funny enough, is she's from Washington, Georgia, which is a tiny little town. And some of my favorite barbecue in the South is a little barbecue place right outside in Lincoln County called Wilkes County Barbecue. And they're open 2 days a week. And if you go by there on a Friday or Saturday, there's a line going out the door. Cooked meat, slow and low. So any kind of pork product, I definitely have a lot of influence from my travels. So I like to find things that are certainly comfortable, what I grew up with, Southern ingredients, but feel like, that's what's kind of magical about Charleston, and I think it's gotten a lot better about it, is that we are really this culinary hub, and I love seeing all the new food pop up here. So I love finding things that I can make connections with, and then I can also begin to tell my own story. I might have started out learning something one way and I did it this way, but through my travels and friends and relationships, I've started learning how to do other things and incorporate other ingredients. But oysters, soft shell crab, shrimp, barbecue.
Right, and some fried chicken.
That's all I want. My favorite thing in the world is collard greens. So collard greens, I don't miss those, but you can't really eat those you can eat them anytime you want, but I love when they're fresh.
Right.
I grew up eating, peas, collard greens, cornbread. My family did Sunday dinner all the time. My dad made a famous ginger pot roast. That's one of my favorite things on the planet that I recreate. Great. And so nostalgic things, I would say, would be the answers. I know that's not exactly what
this
you're
is your
for.
picnic basket, Palmer, not mine.
There's there's so many great things.
That's great. And that's the show for today. This podcast is produced in-house by the Southern Fork, and the theme music is the song Memphis Bound from Songs for Rosetta by Jimbo Mathis and his Knockdown Society, released in 1997 and including violin on this track from Andrew Bird. Mathis, who generously allowed me to use this music here, has been my lifetime musical Pied Piper, and Bird, one of my creative catalysts, so I'm grateful to share their sound with you through this show. If you like what you've heard today, please send it to somebody you'd like to sit across the table from, and please support all the creators featured here. Until next time.